We're in a series on what to do when life gets hard, and it will get hard. So to put this real clear in your mind, let's imagine that your son, you got a call that your son was in a car accident. What's the first thing you'd want to know? Well, you'd want to know if he's okay, all right? And let's imagine he is going to be okay. He's going to be in the hospital for a day or two, but he's going to be out and about, and he's going to be okay. What would be the next thing you would want to know? I'm guessing if you are a normal human being, one of the next things you're going to want to know is, whose fault is it? Did my son do something stupid? Did he run a red light? Did he drive while he was drunk? Did he do something crazy? Or did somebody do something to my kid? We want to know. Inquiring minds want to know, whose fault is it? And I want to talk to you today about the idea that no one wins the blame game. That although there is something hardwired in us that wants to know whose fault is this, and we want to point our bony finger at somebody and say, this is your fault, but it doesn't actually help. And if you think about that specific illustrations, let's imagine that you find out it is in fact your son's fault. You feel better? You feel any better? No, you don't feel better. What if you imagine that somebody else did this to your son? Somebody ran a stop sign or stoplight and T-boned your son, as happened to my cousin a few months back. Do you feel any better? Do you feel any better that your son was innocent and somebody did this to him? It doesn't really help. And no one wins the blame game, and that's what we want to talk about today. I found a sermon by Adrian Rogers where he talks about this one lady. She died of lung cancer, and she sued the tobacco company because she had lung cancer. And now she's actually died, and her kids are now suing the tobacco company because she has lung cancer. In the same article, Mr. Taylor talked about a man named James Carter, a student at the University of Virginia. And there was a drug bust in the frat house where he had lived at the University of Virginia, and the police came in and arrested this young man for dealing drugs. Well, the father, what do you think the father did? What do you think that the father wants to know? Who's at fault here? Who's at fault here? The father of the young man, Fred Carter, was furious, and he wanted to know why his son had been arrested. He wanted to know why the police did not go to the University of Richmond. It's the police's fault. They came to my son's university. Why didn't they go to another university? And this dad wanted to blame somebody else. And what I want to talk to you about today is nobody wins the blame game. And we've all read, he goes on to say, we've all read the article about another man, the former president of American University, resigned recently after it had been discovered that he's been making obscene phone calls from his office. Sounds like something from today's headlines, but anyway, he's picking up the phone now. He's a university president and calling people and making obscene phone calls. Well, a doctor wrote in the Washington Post, a doctor by the name of Kenneth Grundfast, wrote in the Washington Post that this man deserved public sympathy because he was a victim of an obsessive compulsive disorder, which is, and I quote, caused more by abnormal DNA sequences than an individual's chromosomes than by a moral lapse commonly described as wicked and hostility and trepidatude. That is, the man is not to be blamed, he's to be pitied. All right, one more. It gets worse. In New York City, a man deliberately jumped in front of a subway and was mutilated, but he sued the city and collected $650,000 because the train didn't stop fast enough. It wasn't his fault. It was the train's fault for not stopping fast enough. And there is something in us that wants to find out who is at fault here, who is to blame, and who can I blame for this? And I want to talk to you today, and I want you to talk to your people this week about the idea that this instinct we have does not actually help. No one wins the blame game. Now, we want to look at a story from the book of Job, and to set this story up, I would encourage you to do what I did this week, and that is to show a video from the Bible Project. There's actually two online. One is in your PowerPoint. You can find the other one on YouTube if you'd like to look for it. And by the way, if you want to know how to download those videos, just Google it. Google, download YouTube videos. Kind of be careful on what you click on there. You're going to end up clicking on something and get some kind of virus if you're not careful. But at any rate, there's a wonderful video. This company has done a wonderful job of overviewing every Bible book and a lot of biblical themes. And I think your people do it well. And I encourage my people, whenever you're starting your day with your Bible on your lap, you run across a new book, you want to understand a little bit about it, you might open your phone and go to the Bible Project and do it, or go to YouTube and do a search for the Bible Project and whatever book of the Bible or theme that you're looking at. And I found those videos to be very, very helpful. But let's look now from the book of Job, starting in chapter 11, verse 13. Now the story here is, of course, Job, these terrible things have happened to him. And most of the book then comprises of this conversation between Job and his so-called friends and his friends. And so here in this section, we have Job speaking to his friends, and he says, yet if you devote your heart to him, you're not devoting your heart to him. And that's the problem. You are to blame, Job. Yet if you devote your heart to him and stretch out your hands to him, if you put away the sin that is in your hand and allow no evil to dwell in your tent, because evil is dwelling in your tent and you are to blame, and that's why these terrible things happen. Then free of fault. Here's the problem, Job. You are at fault. Then free of fault, you will lift up your face. You will stand firm without fear. You will surely forget your trouble, recalling it only as the waters gone by. But the truth is, Job's friends were wrong. No one wins the blame game. Would you say it with me? Get your people to say it a dozen times this week. Will you? You want to make your teaching unforgettable? One way you could do it is reduce the teaching down to a slogan and get your people to say that slogan over and over and over again. And today's slogan is, no one wins the blame game. We have a tendency to want to figure out who is at fault, but it doesn't actually help. Skipping down to Job 23, we have the response here. But if I go to the east, he is not there. If I go to the west, I do not find him. When he is at work in the north, I do not see him. When he turns to the south, I catch no glimpse of him. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. I am not to blame. Job says, I am not to blame. But the real point is, no one wins the blame game. My feet have closely followed his steps. I have kept to his way without turning aside. I have not departed from the commands of his lips. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my daily bread. A good habit for all of us to treasure, to store up his words in our heart that we might not sin against him. And Job said he has done that more than his daily bread. And he's saying, I'm not to blame. But the real issue is, say it with me, no one wins the blame game. No one wins. It doesn't help you to deal with trouble, with the inevitable trouble that will come to your life by trying to blame somebody else. Another great example of this is in the book of John, beginning in verse 1. And he went along, he saw a man blind from birth, and the disciples asked, who sinned? Who's to blame? That's what everybody wants to know. Whose fault is this? Who sinned? His disciple asked. Rabbi, who sinned? That this man or his parents, that he would be born blind? And Jesus said, neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Before the foundation of the earth, God looked down the corridors of time and saw a time when Jesus would be walking down this place. And he wanted to glorify God by healing this man. And so he was born blind so that God would heal him. And he's saying he's not to blame, and his parents aren't to blame, and no one's to blame, and no one wins the blame game. And don't try to blame anyone for this, because no one wins the blame game. This tendency to blame goes all the way back to the book of Genesis, and we're going to read a couple of extra verses, not part of our assigned text, but just seem to be fitting to me. Genesis 3, beginning in verse 10, he, Adam, answered, I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Who told you? And he, God, said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? The man said, I take full responsibility. It is totally and completely my fault. Is that what Adam said? That is not what Adam said. What Adam said was, it ain't my fault. The man said, the woman, it's her fault. This wife you gave me, she is at fault. The man said, the woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it, and it's not my fault, it's her fault. But the point we want to look at is, say it with me, no one wins the blame game. And so then the Lord God said to the woman, what is this you have done? And the woman said, I take full responsibility. It is totally and completely my fault. Is that what the woman said? That is not what the woman said. The woman said, the serpent, he deceived me and I ate. And it's not my fault. But the point is, no one wins the blame game. It's given to a later part in the book of Job. We have God's response. And this is essentially what he is saying there. We're going to look some more from the later part of the book of Job here, but we're going to look at Job 38. Then the Lord said to Job out of the storm, he said, "Who is it that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched out a measuring line across it? And on what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstones while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Who shut up the sea behind the doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in a thick darkness? When I fixed the limits for it and sets its doors and bars in place? When I said, this far you may come and no farther. Here is where your proud waves halt. Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place? And the big idea here is, since no one wins the blame game, there's two applications for this. One is the primary thing we want to look at today, and there's one other one. The other one we're going to look at first, and that is we want to take 100% responsibility for our life. Your life is perfectly tuned to get the results you are now getting, and we want to take full responsibility for your life. And just by the way, that's true of your life. That's true of your church. Your church is perfectly tuned to reach the people you are now reaching. And there's a tendency to want to blame them and blame somebody else. And we want to take full responsibility for our life. But the main thing that we want to look at today is the idea that when bad things happen, we just need to realize what Job needed to realize. And that is, we don't know, you may never know, and you are okay with that. You don't know, you may never know, and you are okay with that. I read this clip from Paul David Tripp from the book New Morning Mercies, a daily gospel meditation. And he says, it's really amazing how many things I don't know. I don't know how children from the same gene pool can be so different. Has that ever puzzled you? I tell you, my kids are as different as night and day. I get blessed to have 3 kids, and they're all wonderful, and I love them, love them all. But I tell you, I find myself saying, how could 3 kids be so different coming from the same 2 parents? I'll never understand that. I don't understand how bees can fly. We're told that bumblebees, from a scientific perspective, given the size of their wing and the weight, the mass of their body, it is impossible that they would be able to fly. How in the world can that bee fly? I don't know. And the point is this: I can live with that. I can live this. There's 1,000 things I don't know. I don't know who is to blame. It doesn't help to blame anybody. And there's all kinds of things. That's the message of the book of Job. There's all kinds of things I don't know, and I live with not knowing. I don't know how a computer works. I don't know how electricity works. I don't know why sometimes I open up my computer and it works in a kind of a snappy fashion, and sometimes it's all slow. Let me get back to what Paul David Tripp here says, I don't know why I do the things that I do. Do you ever feel that way? Paul felt that way. He said, I don't know why I do this, that, and the other. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I don't know how long my life will be. I don't know the motivations of my heart, let alone the hearts of others. I don't know why they do what they do. I don't know why they are motivated, what motivates them to do what they do. I don't know why. I don't know so many things about art, science, politics, so many things I don't know about. I don't know why I wake up happy on some days and morose, sad on other days. Happens to me. I'm blessed. Most of the time I wake up pretty happy, quite honestly. I went and saw my parents a couple of weeks ago. My dad, I think I've told you, both my parents, very elderly. My dad, especially these days, having health troubles. Spent a week up there with him, and I found that for about a week after that, I just depressed. And that happens to me. Sometimes this had a little bit of a cause and effect, but for me, many times, I don't have any idea why it happens. I just wake up and feel kind of blue. And for me, it doesn't happen all that often, but it does happen to me. And why? I don't know. I don't know why that is. I don't know so many things about the origins and about destiny, about the past and about the future. I watched a ton of videos, old earth videos, secular science videos, Christian science videos from an old earth perspective, Christian science videos from a new earth perspective. And I tell you, my feet are firmly planted in midair on that topic. I can't figure it out. And so I watch a young earth video and I find myself persuaded by the young earth theory. Then I find an old earth video and I find myself persuaded by that theory. And there's a whole lot of things I don't understand. I don't know many things about the operation of my own body. I don't know many things about the function of my own brain, or the lack of functioning sometimes. I don't know why weeds overtake flowers. I don't really understand what makes it rain. I don't understand the plans and purposes of God. I don't know why God brings certain things into my life. There are a million things I don't understand and I will never understand, and I need to get happy with that. I need to realize that they're just asking why and trying to assign blame to someone is never going to help. And I just need to live with the fact this is a complex world, that got a little pea brain. I think it was Martin Luther that said, we could no more understand God and the way He works in this world than a gnat could swallow the Pacific Ocean. We do not understand. We will never understand. And we must get happy with that. And that's what you want to try to communicate to your people this week.